How to score 140 plus in GS paper 4 Mains 2026. You will have noticed the number changed. In our GS2 and GS3, we argued for 130. Here I am asking you for 140. And the reason is simple. The topper of the 2024 examination scored 141 in GS4 paper. It was her highest general studies paper, and a candidate who finished in the top 15 2 years earlier scored 130 in this paper, and that was reported as an exceptional ethics score. So in this paper, 130 is a good score. It is not a distinguished one. It is not a distinguishing one, because GS4 is the paper where the top of the field goes highest. And that means 130 here does not buy you what 130 in GS3 does. Now the good news, and it is genuinely good, GS4 is the most predictable paper in the mains. You very nearly know the questions before you sit down. I'm going to show you exactly how much of this paper is known in advance, counted, not asserted. And then I'm going to show you the thing that takes it away from people anyway, which is not questions, it is the clock. So start with the structure. It has not moved in 3 years. Section A is question 1 to 6. Question 3 carries 3 of them. The rest 2 each. The rest carry 2 each. That is 130 marks. The section B, question number 7 to question number 12, is question number 7 to question number 12. At each 20 marks, 6 case studies 20 marks each. That is 120 marks, 250 marks, 180 minutes. Now the arithmetic. Now the arithmetic, 140 of out of 200 and 56%. 56%. And a 10 mark part, that is a 5.6, and a 20 mark case, that is 11.2. 13 parts at 5.6 is 73. 6 cases at 11.2 is 67. 73 and 67 is your 140. So far this looks like every other paper, but it is not actually. Every other general studies paper losses marks in ones and twos. This one losses them in 20s. In GS3, the largest single unit you can lose is 15 marks. Here is here it is 20s. Here it is 20, and there are 6 of them. One case study left half written costs you 6 marks. One case study left properly unwritten costs you 11. So two of those is your entire margin gone in the last 40 minutes of the paper. And now the fact that this whole film is organized sound. Section B is 120 marks. That is 48% of the paper. It is printed second. It is written in the last third of the clock by somebody who has been in the hall 2 hours and wrote GS3 that same morning. So section B is 120 marks, that is 48% of the paper. It is printed second and it is written in the last third of the clock when you are most tired. Think about who actually writing it. Somebody who has already been in that hall for 2 hours. Who wrote GS3 that same morning and who is now watching the clock. That is the paper's real difficulty, not the ethics, the sequencing. So how much of this paper do you already know? Here is what our own word by word count of the 2013 to 2025 corpus produced. Question 3 has been three quotations of great thinkers, three 10-mark parts in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. Four consecutive papers. 30 marks in the same slot every single time. In 2024, 8 of the 13 section A, 8 of the 13 section A parts opened with a quoted statement. In 2025, 7 of 13, 6 or 7 of the quotation across the whole corpus. So carry no attribution at all, no thinker named, and 4 format frames quotation distinguish, enumerated and justify, and design a measure, answer about a third of questions A between them. So go back to the first of those 30 marks of your section A, 23% of it. Sits in a slots holes whose format has not changed in 4 years. You know what question 3 is? You know how many parts it has? You know how many marks each one carries? You will not know the three quotations. You do not need two. That is the whole point of what comes next. And here is the way to hold the difference between this paper and the last one. In GS3, the format is unpredictable and the content is nameable. In GS4, it is the reverse. The content is unpredictable and the format is nearly fixed, which is why the highest written preparation in this paper is not another thinker. It is not a machine of each machine for each format. And the same thing is true in section B. 7 recurring case archetypes cover about 7 in 10 of every case asked since 2013. Whistleblower 12 cases, conflict of interest 9 cases, crisis 8 cases, corruption, confrontation 7 cases, development versus environment 6 cases, harassment 6 cases, rule versus compression in each of the last 3 papers 6 cases. In each of the last 3 papers, 7 shapes in section A's format, 7 shapes in section B's cases. That is not a syllabus, that is a checklist. So let us build the machines, starting with the 30 marks you can prepare for exactly. That is question number 3. That is three quotations, 10 marks each, almost certainly there again. Most candidates prepare for this by trying to know more thinkers. That is wrong preparation, and the corpus proves it. 6 or 7 of the quotations in 13 years arrive with no name attached at all. No thinker, no context, just the words. So the skill is not knowing who said it. The skill is decoding it from the words alone. Here is the machine, 4 moves, and it fits inside 150 words. So the first move is unpack what the line actually claims in your own words and one sentence, not a paraphrase, a claim. Then move to that is justify. Why is it true? The reasoning, not the reverence. Then move number 3, that is apply. One administrative situation where it decides something. This is where the marks are. The move number 4, that is limit, where does it stop being true, or what does it cost to follow the move almost nobody writes. The fourth move is the one almost nobody writes, and it is the one that separates a 6 from a 9 marks. A quotation answer with no limit is an appreciation. No limit is an appreciation. A quotation answer with a limit is an assessment. And if you do happen to know the thinker, use the core but as a resource, not as the answer. Nobody has ever earned a mark for the year of somebody's birth. One thing on which thinker to prepare and let the evidence choose. Then Vivekananda has been in the question 3 block in 3 consecutive papers, 23, 24, and 2025. If you are picking one thinker, you must be able to write on cold. That is the choice. That is the choice that data makes for you. The other three worth having read are Gandhi, Kautilya, and Aristotle. And for Aristotle, the idea to carry is equity, the correction of a law where its a generality fails a particular case. Now the other three frames, what are the frame? What are the three? What are the other three frames? The frame number 2, that is distinguish. 8 questions have asked you to distinguish a pair directly. Three of them in a single recent paper. So this format is rising. 4 moves. Name the genus. Name the genus. What both belong to. Name the differentia in one sentence. What actually separates them. One administrative example of each, and then what changes if you confuse them. That fourth move is the sentence nobody writes, and it is the sentence that scores, because the examiner is not asking you to define two words. He is asking whether you know why the distinction exists at all. The frame number 3, that is what, enumerate and justify. Identify 5 ethical traits. Let's say example, name 4 qualities. The trap is that candidates list and then stop. The marks are in the selection principle. Why these 5 and not 5 others? So state the principle first, distinct from one another, observable in conduct, consequential if absent. So the run that principle back over your list at the end, that converts a list into an argument. So frame 4, design a measure, and this is the one to watch. Then code of ethics is the only topic in 13 years asked in back to back papers, that is 2024 and 2025. It is the strongest single signal in the corpus for 2026. And notice what those two questions actually demanded. Neither of them asked what a code of ethics is. They asked you to suggest a model and to say what measures you would adopt. Those are design questions. Those are design questions. A definition answers neither. So carry a design frame. The components of real codes needs a statement of purpose, a small number of values defined as observable behavior, not adjectives. Work dilemmas, because a code with no hard case in it is decoration. Because a code with no hard case in it is decoration. Decoration. A disclosure architecture, an advisory channel separate from the punitive one. Because at present an officer in doubt has two options: guess or ask the person who will later judge him. And ownership with periodic review, then close on the limit, that makes it honest. A code works only where seniors are visibly bound by it. That design frame is the second most productive thing in this paper after the quotation machine. The first one is quotation machine and the second one is the design answer. It answers the code of ethics questions, the probability measures questions, the anti-corruption strategy questions, and the citizen charter questions. And the single best line to have ready for any of them is this: a code of conduct can be complied within full by a person of no integrity. And that is not a defect in its drafting, it is the limit of its form. A code of conduct can be complied with a full by a person of no integrity, and that is not a defect in its drafting, it is the limit of its form. So in this we discussed the design answer, that is purpose, a statement of the code is for, then values, few and defined as observable behavior but not objectives. Then work dilemmas, a code with no hard case in it is decoration only. Then disclosure, an architecture for declaring, not a instruction to be honest. An advisory channel, separate from the punitive one. It present an officer in doubt has two options, that is guess or ask another person who will later judge him. And comes to the ownership, named with the periodic review. This is regarding the design answer as far as the components a real code needs. Then we are moving to section B, that is 120 marks, six cases, one engine. You have, if you have collected three decision frameworks from three sources, discard two of them today. Why? Now section B, 120 marks, six cases, one engine. And first year warning that will have save some of you great deal of confusion. If you have collected three different decision frameworks from the three different sources, discard two of them today. Under the clock, a candidate with one engine writes, a candidate with three chooses, that is one engine, six steps. The engine is what, and six steps. The first one is role and decision, the second one is stakeholders, the third one is the conflict, fourth one is the option, and fifth one is the test, and the final sixth one is choose and fix. The step number one, that is role and decision. Who are you? Who are you? What must actually for decide? What must actually be decided, and by when? The step number two, stakeholders, including the silent ones and including the accused also. The step number three, conflict, name the two legitimate claims colliding in two words. The step number four, that is options, three of them and no fantasy option. Step number five, the test legal, ethical and workable. And step number six, choose and fix, the won't choose plus the systemic fix. The won't choose and the won't choice plus the systemic fix. So now the instruction that matters more than engine itself. Run the whole engine in your head. Write only the steps the paper asked for. The engine is thinking, you do in the margin. The sub questions are the writing plan, and the sub questions in recent papers run 2 to 4 parts, never five since 2022, which means roughly 60 to 125 words each. So here is the margin plan: 90 seconds per case. Write r slash d slash c, like role, decision, clock, a stakeholder list with a star on the silent ones, the collision as two words and an arrow, the three options, one word each, then number the sub questions and write the word allocation besides each one, then 70, 60, 60, 60. Now write and now the cheapest mark in the entire paper. In section B, label your answers A, B, C as visible headings that match the sub questions. An examiner making an examiner marking sub questions is looking for them. A following essay containing exactly the same material scores lower than a planner answer that hands it over. So one more thing about section B, because it catches people out. Not every sub question wants a decision. Some ask you to persuade. Some ask you to persuade. What arguments will you put forth to convince? Some ask for domain measures, precautions, laws, intelligence steps. Some ask for a diagnosis. How is medical ethics compromised here? And some ask you to zoom out the general. The engine answer the decision family, which is about 6 in 10 of recent subparts. For the other four, recognize the type and answer the type. Running a decision engine at a question asking for four statutes produces nothing. Now, the chapter that is worth the most marks in this film, that is what, and it contains one instruction T plus 90. By 90 minutes in your, by 90 minutes in you are writing section B, no exceptions. By 90 minutes in, you are writing section B, no exceptions, no exceptions. Write in your, write in on your hand or at the top of your question paper. By 90 minutes in, you are writing the section B, no exceptions in that. Here is the arithmetic behind 13 section A parts at about 6.5 minutes each. 85 minutes, 6 cases at about 13 minutes each, 78 minutes. So reading margin plans and slack 17 minutes, total 180 minutes. That budget works, but it only works if the crossover happens on time. Every minute you spend over 85 on section A is taken directly out a 20 mark case. And in this paper, unlike any other, the trade is catastrophic because a rushed case is not a slightly worse answer. It is a case where you had no time for the margin plan, which means no stakeholder list, no named collision, and no systemic fix, which is most of the marks. So write T plus 90 on your hand or at the top of your question paper at 90 minutes, whenever wherever you are in section A, you move a few practical points on the sequence. Read the whole paper in about 4 minutes. Find the question 3 quotations. Find the hardest case. Do section A first. It is printed first. It warms you up and it builds you early confidence. Place your hardest case in the middle of your section B run, not at the end. And if you know you overrun on theory, invert the order, but decide that before the paper opens, not at minute 90. 85-minute, why the crossover has happened on time. 85-minute 13 section A parts at about 6.5 minutes each, then 78 minutes six cases about 13 minutes each, then 17 minutes reading margin plans and slack, then total 180 minutes. Comes to the sequence, read the paper in 4 minutes. Section A first, hardest case in the middle of your section B run, not at the end. And 150 words, 12 to 15 lines in handwriting. 150 words, 12 to 15 lines of handwriting. Two angle, three blocks of three or four, too close. A rushed case is not a slightly worse answer. It is a case with no margin plan, no stakeholder list, no named collision. So it will be no systemic fix. So everything so far has been a missionary, has been missionary. This next part is not. There is one thing most candidates do this paper, which is entirely well intentioned and which costs them 30 marks. They perform virtue. I will act with utmost integrity and transparency. As a civil servant, my duty is to serve the last person in the queue. I will uphold the constitutional values of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. None of that is wrong. All of it is sincere. And an examiner needs water. Examiner reads several hundred of those days, but they are all sound exactly the same, and they are unmarkable because there is nothing in them to mark. Here is what the paper actually rewards, that is three moves. The first one is name the collision. Name the collision and consider that both sides are legitimate. An answer where one option is obviously right has not understood the case. The examiner put two real claims in there, say so second one, that is to choose, and say what your choice costs. Everybody writes decision, almost nobody writes the price. I will do this. Accepting the other is a real loss, and here is how I will manage, and here is how I will mitigate it, is worth several marks more than I will do this because it is ethical. So then comes to the third one, that is end on the system, not on yourself. The closing move of every case is not what a good officer would be, it is the arrangement that would have prevented the dilemma. Not a better officer, but a system in which a worse officer would still have done the right thing. At one precision point that runs through the whole paper, honesty is not integrity, impartiality is not non-partisanship, empathy is not compassion, accountability is not responsibility, discretion is not arbitrariness. Using those as synonyms in the commonest way, a well informed candidate tells the examiner that the vocabulary is borrowed. Using two of them precisely in one answer tells him the opposite. Now, 3 days, GS3 is Sunday morning. Now, the days comes to this. Honesty is not integrity. Impartiality is not non-partisanship. Empathy is not compassion. Accountability is not responsibility. Discretion is not arbitrariness. Using these as synonyms is the commonest way a well-informed candidate tells the examiner the vocabulary is borrowed. Using two of them precisely in one answer tells him the opposite. Now the days. GS3 is Sunday morning, 9 to 12, and GS4 is Sunday afternoon, half past 2 to half past 5. It is the last merit paper of the week, and it is written by somebody who has just done 5 papers in 3 days. So, two things. One, do not give GS4 your Saturday evening. We said in the GS3 film that Saturday evening belongs to GS3, and it does, because GS3 is a naming paper and names decay fast. Ethics does not decay that way. The four frames, the engine, and the archetype are producers. And producers hold, revise them today and tomorrow, and they will still be there on Sunday afternoon. The second one is what to revise and in what order. The first, the four frames, the quotation, distinguish, enumerate, design, half an hour. The second one is the quotation machine, unpack, justify, apply, limit until it is automatic. The third one, Vivekananda and Gandhi, at enough depth to write cold. And then fourth one is the seven archetypes. By name only, you are not learning cases, you are learning shapes here. And the fifth one is the engine and the budget, time t plus 90, and what not to do. Do not read new theory, and what not to do. Do not read theory, and do not go looking for another list of thinkers. There is no thinker you can add this week. that is worth as much as one more rehearsals of the four moves. So everything in four lines. First one is the formats are known. Question number 3 is the 30 marks in a fixed slot. Prepare the machine, not the thinkers. Then second one is section B. Section B is 120 marks written last. T plus 90 protects it. Nothing else does. Then third one is one engine. Run it in the margin. Write only what has asked and label your parts. And fourth one, do not perform virtue. Like name the collision, choose and say what it costs and the number. And the number what? 140 is 56%. It is 5.6 on a part and 11.2 on a case. This paper does not reward the performance of being a good person. Please mind this. This paper does not reward the performance of being a good person. Examiners read several hundred of those a day and they all sound the same. It rewards the demonstration that you can hold two legitimate claims at once and decide anyway. With reasons you will put your name to, that is not a moral quality. It is an administrative capability and it can be built. And 4 days is enough to build the parts of it that this paper actually tests. Sunday half past to go and convert. All the best.